going down! Women, children, and podcasters first!
So he's still having issues with the kitchen, I get it?
Yeah, I think he might be overreacting a little bit, though.
We're taking on water!
On this episode of Music Arcade. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Music Arcade podcast. I'm Galen the Sound Guy Firestone.
I am Ronacle, and I am very dry.
And I'm Eddie, and I'm feeling moist.
You've used this joke before.
Come on, I had to.
And he'll use it again.
And he'll use it again.
Everyone hates this word, and I'm gonna make fun of it forever.
So, for those who don't understand a bit of the intro, I had a kitchen incident 2 weeks ago where one of my pipes had a problem. That has since been long resolved, but that did inspire this episode.
One of my pipes had a problem is a way of putting it, yes.
No, that's about as bad as it gets. It was the pipe leading to my water filter, and it didn't want to pipe anymore. It just decided water's just going to go everywhere now.
Wow, imagine having water. Couldn't be me. It hasn't rained a single drop in the region for over a month now.
Yikes.
The grass is dying and it's not even summer yet.
First thing, yikes. Second thing,
Yes.
kind of ironic considering here, I think this is only the second day in a row without rain for the past week and a half.
Yeah.
So the idea of being moist is actually closer to reality than you think.
Same.
Yep.
Like, now that I live in the tropics, I can say very much the same. I was walking home from something yesterday. I think it was shopping. I got drizzled on a little bit, and it was totally fine.
Water would be pretty fine, and it sounds fine too in video games. That's what we're going to talk about.
Which is kind of weird, because we picked some off-the-wall stuff for this topic. It's not the first time we've talked water and water-related music. We've talked about beaches. We've talked about water dungeons. We've talked about the tropics.
We've talked about water and water and water, in fact.
Yeah, that was brought up. That is a very strange remix of Don't Be Afraid from Final Fantasy VIII. That's also one of these things. Another big theme of this episode is we went hard on the earworms.
Yes.
We went hard on the earworms. I'm a little surprised at how few, actual classics there are in here, but I'm also like, if we're going to talk about a classic, we may as well talk about one of the classics, so let's take it away.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to pick some themes that include an aquatic ambience, we might as well start with Aquatic Ambience from Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
You found a very cool mix of this song, I might add, too. Somehow it's pre-compressed. I didn't know this was in the wild.
I kinda looked for just the theme because here's the thing, I didn't have the track name in my head, so I just looked for Donkey Kong Country water theme, and immediately it fires Sticker Brush Symphony, which was intended and first composed as a water theme, but was actually used for a Thorny Labyrinth theme.
Yeah, I think they took out the water levels in 2, if I'm not mistaken, how that came about.
Yeah.
It had a few, but not full-on water. I think they were hybrid water with bits of land.
I think it was also I think there was one section where you played as on guard, and that was about it, right? Am I remembering that right, or is that 3?
I don't remember.
Maybe both. I know 3 had way more water levels than 2, but I think 2 had a few in the third world mixed in with the swampy areas.
I've never actually played 2 or 3. I've only ever seen speedruns of it, so my memory of these is very compromised. I played the crap out of 1, though.
Yeah, I've played
same.
3 the most, and 2 the second most out of the franchise.
Well, looks like we have a complete experience across all of us.
Seems that way.
we average out to someone who has played the franchise.
Exactly. Because I've also played Return, but not Tropical Freeze, so did one of you play that?
I played Returns. I have not played Tropical Freeze.
No,
Damn
that
it,
breaks
missed.
our streak.
Combo Breaker.
Striking
Yeah.
out.
Just to make a quick correction, though, the YouTuber whose track we're grabbing for the playlist, he talks about in a different video that these are restorations. So I don't think he has the original. I think he tried to restore them.
Well, now I have even more questions. Because, like, how? You're taking a
But
16-bit feed and filling in the blanks, or is this just like a super close reconstruction?
If I were a betting man, I would say he probably tracked down similar synth samples, like keyboard samples.
I mean, that's not hard, especially when you're dealing with the 16-bit sound font like the Super Nintendo, but yeah, I don't know.
I have the answer here.
Oh.
I will quote directly from his description for another video. This was made possible by locating the original instrument samples from workstation keyboards and drum machines before they were put into the game and rebuilding the soundtrack from the ground up, applying some modern mixing techniques along the way to lift the veil of 16-bit compression, create an updated listening experience.
Okay.
So yeah, dude just put up the work.
Okay.
Lots of research and kudos to the guy. That's jamming Sam Miller for the audience.
Okay.
And I'm impressed.
I feel a little conflicted about that, but okay. It's a weird gray area.
It certainly. But at least he's been open about it, so
yes,
that already helps alleviate a lot of the possible concerns.
Yeah, not trying to take credit for the work like, so many do these days.
I mean, good luck doing that and trying to pretend you're somebody as well known as...
David Wise?
Yes, thank you. Had a brain fart there.
Yeah. Besides, good luck asking for the originals from either Rare or Nintendo.
Yeah, there's that too, but I think we're getting lost in the seaweed here.
Ha.
Heyo.
Thank you. Let's talk about the track itself, because...
well, if you're gonna pick a classic, it was like, it's either this or it's Mario. That's basically where you're going when it comes to
exactly.
water-based songs. And
yeah, and Mario, even though it came first, feels definitely more like an oddball, while this one, like, you can basically put it in the ears of someone that has never played or touched a video game, and they're like, yep, it's a water level. What's a level?
I would say Mario 3 also probably is on that. Like, Mario 3's water theme could have gotten away with that as well.
Fair. I was just thinking of the first one, which
That's
is
fair.
more waltzy.
It is. Well, so is the
I
third
am
one. But
surprised I didn't bring any waltzy songs here, because I love
we're
those waltzy
short
water
on waltzy,
themes.
and we're short on, like, the one ambient song we have didn't come from you. Like, we're all over the place on this one.
Yep.
Sorry for the sound, and a little bit of a backhand.
Aha. I was supposed to say, like, what the hell was that?
Yeah. We were about the song that surprisingly isn't mine. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, I suppose. But
And I will have words for that song.
oh boy, I know you will. But a DKC2, it's like, just keep on rocking, David Wise, because this man is a genius.
DKC, not DKC.
Yeah, this is from 1. This is the original.
Sticker
yeah.
Brush Symphony, the one from 2.
Very similar song, shockingly.
Yeah, exactly.
It was meant to be a sequel, as Rana said.
It's just got this vibe of something that's slow-paced, that has some very long notes, and that just lets you flow in there, which fits the underwater level nature of it. It's lets you drift in it and basically takes you along gently, and that's why it's such a powerful water imagery that it conjures.
I mean, it works super well. Like, I could see in my mind's eye the gameplay of the water levels as the song plays. Like, it's that ingrained into my mind. Obviously, I'm coming from it as a DKC1 player, which gives me a different context. But I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know what I can actually add to this. How do you like improve on perfection?
I have something to add, which is contrast, because most of the rest of the Donkey Kong soundtrack, because you're playing as gorillas, it's very drum heavy. The gameplay has this sudden burst of speed and of impulses, and there it's kind of in contrast even more the opposite of just this more steady pace, this gentle feel to it. It's like running and suddenly you have water up your waist and you're kind of in a natural slow motion.
It actually also contrasts interestingly with the third DKC game, because if my memory serves me well, a lot of the water levels in DKC 3 had a lot of more bass-heavy, ominous music. Because more often than not, those water levels had you pretty much just in the sewers or among pipes of an industry, and the whole game had that nature versus industry theme.
Yeah, exactly. Well, though it's a coral reef.
I mean, I will say that in DKC 1, that definitely was a continuing theme as well. Like, you got a lot of that, especially in the, like, 6th and 7th world.
Yeah, I think that is a theme that kind of runs through the first three games. It just ramps up as the games come on.
Yeah.
In the second game, the final boss has K-Rool as this crazy mad scientist, and DKC 3 straight up has a lot of industries. So it's just a theme that gets ramped up. So by the third title, being in the water is almost equated with being in polluted water specifically. So it's much more ominous and oppressive. But in DKC 1, it's just you're just swimming around pretty much. Is the vibe they went with.
Or riding a swordfish.
Or riding a swordfish.
Shout out to Ungard.
But yeah, I don't have much else to say either. It's a classic, it's iconic, and I hope it never goes away.
Well, I guess we're going from riding swordfish to riding dolphins. So my song was actually inspired by the previous episode. And at some point, I forget the exact context, I'll have to re-listen, but someone mentions Thalassophobia.
I did.
That was you.
Me now playing.
There we go. Well, that put a series of things into my head. Not even a hard tangent, because Thalassophobia is the name of a level in Grand Poo World 2 by the mighty and wondrous barbarous king, Barbarian, a guy who... Barb. A guy who I really wish would work on his own games, because I would totally buy them. He is an absolutely fantastic level creator and designer and understands what makes things fun in a way that I think not a lot of other players or creators really do.
Yeah, like, it's not things that are hard for being hard's sake.
Yeah.
It straddles that subtle line between well-crafted, well-designed levels, and it's going to make you scream in frustration.
Yeah, and not even then, like, when you hear him talking about things like the Souls games, or even, like, other creators, he talked about Tears of the Kingdom a lot as well, he has a really fundamental understanding of what makes things fun for players, and I think I'd love to see that put forward. But for the time being, his own personal masterpiece is Grand Poo World 2, a Super Mario World ROM hack, with this level, Thalassophobia, with one of the most wild remixes I think I've ever heard. Famed.
It's very good, and
Yeah.
ironically, so in my track selection, I was kind of looking at classics, and after thinking Donkey Kong Country, I was like, okay, but there's gotta be some other track, and then I thought first about Sewer Surfing from Turtles in Time, and then I was like, wait, wasn't there another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles music track that, at which point my train of thought stopped, and I was flashed with traumatic memories of the past and of the dam level in the NES TMNT. And I was like, oh yeah, that was probably a good track as I recovered from the trauma of that level, which definitely doesn't have the level of finely tuned design. And it's just horrible.
I'm just happy the only way I know about that level is through the Angry Video Game Nerd, because watching that, I know I wouldn't like to play that thing.
I played it when I was a kid.
Same.
I feel for your souls.
Thank you. But point being that I thought of that, and then I was like, yeah, I should probably put that in. Anyway, first, I probably should check what others have already picked. And there it was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, this one immediately was like, oh, right, Thalassophobia, and we're doing a water level? This is my first pick. The stars kind of aligned for this song to make an appearance on this list, and this one's a humdinger. The composer, who is screen-named Composer, got his start doing music levels for Mario Maker,
which are very good because they are musical levels,
right?
But not autoplay musical levels.
No, you actually do have to play them. Though I know he does
essentially makes rhythm games.
Yeah, although I believe he's one of the creators who does give you a path to just listen to the song if you want to do that, like once you've beaten the level.
I see.
I think he'll give you like a secondary path that you could just listen to it.
Yeah.
Like usually through a key door at the end or something. And he provides a lot of remixes and reports of songs for Mario ROM hacks and Mario fan games. And as far as remixes go, this one might be his masterpiece.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
It is.
The bass track is pretty good, and that just kind of transcends it.
Yeah. Composer really did something special with this song, because I didn't even recognize it as the dam at first. It was just so, like, its own animal. I really appreciate how he took that. I really appreciate how he took the song to a completely different extreme. And
I
gave
think
this,
one of the things that helps is that if you compare to the original, which is on the NES, you kind of have more, how do I say it, more definite sounds, which give the whole track a drier feel. So now, when you port that to the SNES font and you have these more full synths, you add a lot of texture to the track that helps make it more fit in a water level.
Yeah. And just like the water level itself that this all goes to, it has a real high energy. Like, you are meant to do this level quick. I think there's actually a very short timer. And the song really does elevate that as well, because there's a tension here that's largely missing from a lot of water tracks. There's a definite vibe of hurry up and go.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the water is hurrying you up. Like, you've got some current, sink or swim.
Mm-hmm. And
which
those currents...
will 80 times out of 1 be sink.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a Kaizo. It's rough. And this one in particular, again, you're dealing with Barb's kind of particular creative genius. The currents were not an incorrect statement on that one, because you gotta make the dolphins happen there. Thankfully, he isn't like Panga, who likes throwing RNG dolphins in there. He knows better.
He also isn't Carl.
Carl's a nightmare
Carl's
human who only
different.
gets away with what he does because he's Carl.
Pretty much.
That's sadism. That's not quite the same.
Yeah. Barb is actually very opposed to that, which I appreciate him for. Because there's a certain subset of fans who like the sadism, and then there's some who
Yeah.
don't.
And I think there's a place for both.
There is. I
And
personally
the
follow...
place for the sadism levels is as far away from me as possible.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm definitely in the Barb camp of I don't mind challenging, I mind getting my ass beat for no reason.
I like the sadism when watching a compilation of people screaming.
Yeah, I like it when it's happening to other people.
Exactly.
I don't mind the schadenfreude. I mind having it happen to me. There's a reason the first rule of my pick a game is no troll games. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what else I can really add to this. The song really kind of goes on some
Like-
crazy levels. The samples are great. The composition's terrific. The remixing is wonderful. Like, where do I go with this?
The hook feels almost like a canon in the way it kind of builds upon itself.
Oh, hey, look, we're two
We-
songs in. We're already on our second earworm.
Yeah, exactly.
What a shock.
I
I don't think I ever
Yep.
listened even to the original info before.
Wait.
this.
Sorry to interrupt you. We had the Rogue Galen beatbox. That's how good the track
That's
is.
how good the track is.
Yep.
Although I wouldn't exactly call it a beatbox. I was on the melody.
Yeah, no, it's more of a humming.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my stuff is being called a beatbox, so yours is too. That's how it works. Anyway, sorry, you were saying, Eddie?
No, pretty much the conclusion was going to be the same, that the song is also stuck in my mind, even though I never even played the original.
Yeah.
I don't recall ever listening to the Tim and T version in full, much less the Grand Poo World version. So this is a remarkable track.
It really is.
Really, really fun.
It would go well in your workout playlist. Like, the fact that it's a bit hurried up and there's a pace, it kind of works, in my opinion.
I love how the craziness of Eddie's workout playlist has become a meme for this show. I love that. That makes me happy inside.
Yeah,
I don't know how to feel about it.
Now then, let's move on to getting out of the water and upon the safety of a boat with your mighty crew. Rawr.
So it's sea shanties are still a meme, right? 2 years later.
I think the Wellerman was specifically the meme, but yes.
Yeah, it was the Wellerman at the time, but now it's Drunken Sailor, which is arguably the most famous sea shanty of all time, I think.
I recognized it, and I
Yeah,
don't
it's a
listen to this at
classic.
all.
Yeah, in particular, this is the Assassin's Creed 4 version, because of course it is. It's me and it's a sea shanty. What else would I be bringing?
Pretty much.
And I just read the word Drunken Sailor, and instantly the entire melody is in my head. Even the weird Dishonored version, where they took Drunken Sailor, turned it to Drunken Whaler, and made it creepy because Dishonored.
Yeah, but
And now I'm thinking about Stultifera Novice. The Golden Age will return again, the War Shanty.
Huh. I don't know where to go with that information.
Arknight's gonna Arknights, move on.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, this is just, traditional song, kind of a stereotypical you're in the high seas vibe, so clear why not for me.
I would say it's more than a vibe given the nature of a shanty. Like, it has a strong rhythm because it has to have, given that it's made to synchronize a bunch of people and make them work together in unison.
Yes, that's actually part of the reason why when the Wellerman was the big thing on TikTok, people were actually debating whether Wellerman actually counts as a sea shanty.
Technically, it's a whaling song.
Yeah, it was actually composed by someone. It wasn't just something that people started singing along in the during work or whatever. But Drunken Sailor, as far as I can tell, we don't know who composed it, the original version, and it's part of a maritime tradition of songs that synchronize the entire workforce together. If I recall correctly, it has its origins, at least for Europeans, from way back in the Roman period, where they would have drums in the triremes.
Yeah.
So they would synchronize the folks to the drums, to the drum beat.
Because you can't exactly have your oars desynchronized.
Exactly. And eventually it kind of extended to every bit of work that you do on a ship.
Right.
Which by the golden age of piracy, it was mostly dealing with ropes. So pulling on ropes, letting ropes free to open the sails, stuff like that. And that kind of how it's used in the game. You only listen to it when you're on a ship at high seas. It doesn't fully sync with the character animations because it kind of can't. But in effect, it's all is used.
So I have a weird, technical statement to make on this song, which I didn't think I would have, given it's just vocals. So I noticed that the lead singer on this is actually a trained singer, pretty quickly. What interested me is that it actually seems to be recorded with this guy, first as the lead, without any backing or instrumentation or even a click track, and just let him go at it.
I think part of it is because the track... Correct me if I'm wrong, Eddie, I have not played 4, but isn't the track kind of evolving depending on how much of your crew is around and in good health?
I honestly don't remember if that has an effect on it.
Because that may be a good reason why the recording was separate.
I mean, I figured it was just that, and they were trying to deliberately make it sound messy because, pirate ship. Not everyone's going to be a trained singer. Exactly. If it sounds like a chorus, it would suck.
I know that they were trying to make it sound a bit messier. They didn't want this to sound professional.
Well, at least as far as the lead singer is concerned, they failed miserably because that guy could definitely sing.
Yeah, but there's I don't know 100% if this is true, but there's at least a story that I think Ubisoft has confirmed at the time, did confirm at the time, where they actually had Ubisoft employees singing the backing vocals. So they deliberately chose people who weren't professionally trained. So that it sounded like it was pirates singing on a ship.
Oh, good. Once again, they get around union issues by, just not hiring union singers. Thanks, Ubisoft. Sorry, this has been on my mind lately.
Yeah,
And no wonder with the water strike still active and all.
Yeah, now an actor strike coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a divided mind on this one, because I don't know whether it was a Ubisoft decision, like a demand, or if it was just the soundtrack composer asking if he could do this.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of part of the fallacy of my thinking. When Mick Gordon does something like this, it's cool. When Ubisoft does something like this, it's suspicious. Like, what am I doing?
Yes.
I know that's a double standard.
Well, maybe if Ubisoft didn't want to be the target of a double standard, they shouldn't have done enough terrible practices to make us worried in the first place.
That's a fair point.
Reputation is earned.
they did earn that reputation. Like I'm a fan of the franchise, and I cannot defend Ubisoft as a company, but
Yeah,
on
and
this,
that's why you are a fan and not a fanboy.
but specifically in this case, I'm not sure like where the decision was made, especially considering later on in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which also has sea shanties, but from the ancient Greek period, they actually have a professional choir singing. So I don't know where the decision came from. Might have been entirely just a creative choice.
Was it the same composer?
Nope.
Okay, so then, yeah, who knows what the decision making was on that?
Yeah, they kind of had Jesper Kudd as the ongoing composer for the first two games, and then it kind of changes with every game. I think outside of Jesper Kudd, the only other composer that repeated has been Sarah Schachner, and I think someone else had like some tracks for the multiplayer portion of a game, and then did the score for the main game on the next entry. But they swap composers like with literally every new game, so it isn't the same.
Also, just gonna throw this out there: we're now 3 songs in and 3 earworms in.
Yeah, and I mean, this one is, given that it goes way beyond its original game and is a part of popular culture in many ways, I mean, what can we even say about that?
Yeah, it's hard
Tell
to
me,
really.
what do we do with the Drunken Sailor?
Yeah,
A lot of things if you look at the lyrics.
And
yeah,
technically, I can't say yet early in the morning, it's 23:51 p.m. I need 10 minutes before I can make this part of the joke.
yeah, it's late in the morning for me. It's almost noon, so yeah.
Almost
that
7
won't
p.m.
work
for me.
either.
Yeah, it's hard. You bring up an interesting point, though. It's hard to comment about a song that the composer is listed as traditional.
Pretty much.
Exactly.
Where do you go with that? You're literally talking about a historical element, not even really a song to be dissected in any real way at this point.
Yeah, like if somebody told me Drunken Sailor is my favorite video game song, I would look at them strangely.
Yeah, that would be a weird look on my face for me too. I'd be like,
I'm like,
interesting.
Is that shade? Do you hate video games? I mean, that's fine if you do, but I need answers.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's such a traditional and well-known song that when I heard the Dishonored version, Drunken Whaler, I just went, this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And as an aside on the matter of other people singing the song, if someone wants to listen an actual version with instrumentals rather than only vocals, shout outs to the Irish Rovers. They're an Irish folk group. They've done an album full of sea shanties, and the album was titled Drunken Sailor.
Wait a minute, you like folk music?
Who knew? But I enjoyed the Assassin's Creed version, and I think the way they used it was really fun. But
I mean, it works.
It is definitely a version to listen to while playing. If you want to listen to this sea shanty on your free time, check the Irish Rovers out. Shout outs to those guys because they are incredibly fun.
Fair enough. Okay.
With that, now let's move to something that is definitely less omnipresent.
Certainly.
It's still very suitable for our theme today. It is Dance of a Water Drop from the Atelier Ayesha's OST.
Now, remind me, was this one of them that you liked or didn't like? There's a lot of them, but I seem to recall, my brain is telling me this is one you didn't.
It's not my favorite game, but it is my favorite soundtrack of the series.
Okay.
And this one is part of it. It's the first thing that has surprised me, and why in the playlist for the episode there are 2 tracks from the game in a row, is that when I actually played the game, I didn't realize that it was a remix of a town theme, which is named Laughter in the Frontier. And when listening to them side by side, that checks out, but I had to note the composer's short information that are on every track you can listen once you finish the game, which is such a good feature, and I will go to bat for it every time. A little bit of composer inside goes a long way, and this one go that it's an arranged version of Laughter in the Frontier, that he never thought I'd be arranging a town song for a dungeon, and that since it was for a while more of a part depleted water reservoir but close enough, included lots of moisture sounds, and yeah, when you get into it, you have just sounds of droplets that place not only the water part of it in the kind of landscape of the song, but also with how it echoes the fact that it's in a cavernous environment. The way it sets up the scenery that quick and efficiently is pretty neat as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I really like the creative use of the water droplets as kind of an instrument in effect.
Yeah. And
Yeah, exactly.
I'll have a counterpoint about that later as well. One thing I noticed about this one pretty quick, at least on my end, is that it actually used like fairly cheap samples, but the composer works with them very well. Like, it doesn't sound like a cheap song. It just sounds old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Like an advanced version of a
And,
Super Nintendo track.
I think that's kind of more noticeable, at least for me, in the Laughter in the Frontier version that you shared with the accordion.
That accordion sample is
That
weird.
Yeah,
that sounded like a sort of a cheap sample.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and I mean,
didn't-
there's two possible explanations for them. One being that it's an Atelier game, they have a budget of 3 shoestrings and hopes and dreams.
Yeah,
And,
that's quite possibly a free library or something. Like, it's
Yes.
not like they're using East, West, or Contact or one of the big ones.
And the other thing is that this game is the first part of the Dusk trilogy of Atelier game. They tend to be organized according to their world and kind of a sweeping storyline.
Right.
And the one of the Dusk trilogy involves decay in a world that is dying out bit by bit. And that, as a result, having kind of low fidelity bits here and there fits the Dusk aspect of it all, kind of looking back and seeing that you are reaching the end slowly, bit by bit.
I appreciate the interpretation, but I think the first one is more likely, just given the, especially on the song with the accordion on it. The acoustic guitar is very strong on this one.
Yeah, I am mainly thinking
Yeah.
about that explanation due to other tracks in the game, to be
That's
clear.
fair. It doesn't sound intentional on this one. I think they just used the sample they had. That's
That
my
checks
gut
out.
check.
Yeah, no, I... gut check. It's made that guts.
Oh, okay.
Gust. Yeah, no, so that doesn't work.
No, I don't
Whoops.
know what's happening right now.
Okay.
I'm just lost here. I'm just gonna say the music is cool.
It's neat.
It is. It has a lot of pep in its step.
It does.
That's
My
what I
very
mean.
first note about the first one, the droplets one, is very bouncy. It is a very bouncy song.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you said
exactly.
this plays on a water dungeon.
Yeah, it's an explorable zone that is kind of an... If memory serves well, I haven't played the game for a long time, but I think it's a mostly depleted city water reservoir.
This is oddly eerie for a dungeon theme,
Mm-hmm.
but I can kind of see it working.
Yeah, I mean, it is an Atelier game. It's not exactly grimdark, even within the context of an entire setting slowly walking to its doom.
Yeah, what little
This
I've
is in,
seen and played of it
Bloodborne.
seems very, like, peppy of a franchise. It's very lighthearted.
It's comfy.
Comfy, that's a good word for it.
Yes.
Kind of reminds
that's
me a
fair.
little bit of Shantae in the same kind of vibe. Like, serious things are happening, but nothing really is treated seriously.
Yeah, I can see that. And yeah, even for this one, like, the fact that there is that you're on a mission eventually, and that there are mysteries to go around, and this world decaying in the background doesn't mean you have to be mopey about it. And that one track is a nice reflection of that, with its pace and just the songs that can be pretty, like, it's perky again. Even not the droplet sound themselves, but some of the instruments I can't even identify for sure have this quality of striking suddenly and going away as fast as they came, which kind of echoes that aspect of water that isn't settled and just drips around.
It brings me kind of a personal memory I have of when I was a kid, because I probably mentioned it before in one of our early episodes, but as a reminder, I guess, my mom was a geography teacher and she taught for 26 years. And at one point, she would bring students to visit a cave. I can't remember
neat.
the city, but it's a nearby city here in my state where they actually allow tours for educational purposes of a big cave they have there. And I actually visited as a child. So the sounds of the water droplets and the this light reverb they have, it really reminds me of stalagmites and stalactites.
Yeah, when I think of the closest thing I've been to cave exploration in a school setting, I don't have the water aspect, because apparently World War II bunkers are better insulated against water, but the echo is definitely present.
I guess that counts as a cave.
I mean, having been in one, it definitely has this room around you, this space.
It's a militarized cave.
Yeah, sort of. Like, one of the things that happened is to simulate the sound of and how much the war could be battering from the outside. The guy just took a grate, told us to walk like 100 meters down that corridor, and then dropped it, and the echo just rang all throughout.
Meanwhile,
and
my
then he was
experience-
like, imagine that, but all the time, because it's explosives.
Yeah, my experience was, to say the least, much more lighthearted.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have
Welcome to Alsace.
yeah, like when I visited this cave, the city name is actually coming back to me. I believe it's called Cotuverá, South Brazil. They actually had the light on, a lot of lights. You could see very easily inside the cave. So it was very much here, come see what a cave is like.
I see.
And it was very much one of those caves where you could see the limestone, and it was very much the stalactites and stalagmites were very much a product of the water seeping through. But they did have a moment where they went, well, now we're gonna turn the lights off. Be careful not to fall. This is how people would have lived on these caves back in the day. And they turned the lights off for a few seconds, and everyone was just, well, crap.
Cool.
that was before the days of cell phones, so people couldn't just take their cell phones out of the pocket. So, whoops, hang on to someone.
Yeah, that's definitely the track's atmosphere is definitely the cave with the lights on.
Yeah.
But for something that's a bit more abyssal in nature, we can move on to the next track. The Deep Beckons.
This song was an accident. When I came into this episode, I hadn't even remotely considered doing 2 Chrono Trigger remixes in a row. When I was searching for Thalassophobia, one of my recommended tracks was this one, because I'd searched for Chrono Trigger remixes for last episode, and Thalassophobia is a remix of a video game track, and I'm just looking at this thumbnail, and I'm looking at the thing of it, I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to click on this and just see if it sounds good. You remember how...
the thumbnail in itself of that Lavos silhouette is pretty striking in itself.
It really is. So I asked earlier in the episode today how you improve on perfection. This is how you improve on perfection. This song right here. We've talked about the Chrono Trigger soundtrack numerous times before. It's one of the all-time classics for a reason.
Yeah.
Yasunori Mitsuda.
And even during the episode pre-production, when we were talking about something else that is going to come in Now Playing, there was the mention that Chrono Trigger is kind of a legendary game.
Yeah. And again, the soundtrack's a big part of that. And while a lot of remixes and rearrangements are clearly paying homage to the original, it never tries to really go beyond its scope. This one does, and that's a risky move to make.
That it is.
But I think this is the rare case where it paid off, because this song is kind of incredible.
Yeah, it seems like it doesn't just stick to the track, but understands kind of one of the sort of atmosphere it tries to set up and ask itself, how can I do that but in a richer manner with richer sounds?
Yeah.
I would say, for me personally, this remix is a bit of a side grade instead of an upgrade necessarily.
Honestly, side grade of a Chrono Trigger track is pretty good.
Pretty high praise right there.
It is still a very good track, even if it isn't, to me, an upgrade. But I think that it does add a lot of this ominous vibe that you are under a ton of pressure from the water above you. But it lacks a bit of the alien vibe that the original had with the synth. In my opinion.
I don't necessarily disagree, but I also feel like this is very much in tune with, I'm going to say Star Trek here specifically, which deals with aliens all the time, but had a very traditional string score. So I come into this song, like, first and foremost, the strings to the opening are a lot more subtle. And I've always heard that opening riff, for lack of a better term, as a string, even though it's on the Super Nintendo hardware, so it sounds very synthy. But then we get to the main melody line, and they actually use a vocalizer. They actually use sampled vocals here, which is a very cool way to go.
Yeah, I mean, as far as ways to make a situation feel more ominous, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. That adds so much tension. I was actually very surprised.
I think the biggest win in there is not overdoing it with the vocals, too.
Yeah. Like, this song, despite being this big, bombastic, scary number, has a lot of subtlety to it. I really appreciate that.
Yes. And
it
another thing that I
like...
Yes. And another thing that I like is how it doesn't settle. Like, it's a long track, but it keeps doing different things.
Yeah.
I think that works to its favor, because it keeps building up this this ominous vibe.
Yeah. And
One might even say it ebbs and flows.
Hey,
wow, that's a good way to put it, actually. No, I'm not even sure that's that funny. I think that's actually, like, really... I think that's really on point.
Yeah.
¿Por qué no los dos?
That's fair. One other thing that really kind of shocked me is in the original version of the song, there's a breakdown that comes off as very, very harsh and kind of brings me out of the song a little bit. This one has the presence of mind to actually tone that sequence down and make it just more... I want to say more tense, more like it feels big and empty and cavernous, and like it doesn't feel like it's crushing in on you like the original did. It feels like there's a deep, wide ocean of terror out there. Where's the problem going to come from?
Yeah. The threat is less pointed and less localized.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to re-listen to the original because I don't remember it, the entire song to remember that part of it. But,
I would highly suggest comparing and contrasting these.
I believe you. And even what I remember of the original, this very much sounds way more maritime, let's say, than the original. The original is very much you're in a sci-fi temple that doesn't belong in this time.
Yes.
This one is you're in an undersea palace.
I think both are very valid interpretations of the song, and I think I do tend to gravitate towards this one because it does something very unique with the remix.
I think what's interesting is that the original is, like you said, very sci-fi, and this one, perhaps suitably for the game, feels more out of time.
Like it's both. I would kind of say both work for the feeling out of time thing.
Yeah.
But both are great. Both are amazing. Like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Again, to be clear, when I say I think this isn't an upgrade, I'm not saying this is lesser.
No, you said you called it a side. You said you called it a side grade. You made that clear.
You have been abundantly clear. Don't worry.
This is very much a good way to tackle the whole idea of a danger underwater.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've heard many better ways of doing it than this remix.
Yeah, this one kind of hits all the right notes. Ha 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 ha. This does things that I really appreciate, and I didn't think you could elevate this song, but I feel like this remix manages to somehow do so, which is to call it a challenge is a gross understatement.
Yeah.
Chrono Trigger is there with the Final Fantasy franchise as games you don't try to remix unless you know what you're doing, or you're too stupid to realize you don't know. But this person knew, and it worked.
As a result, shoutouts to Chrono Cinematica by Sam Dillard.
Yeah.
Album available on Bandcamp.
I'm probably going to pick up this whole album and report back on it, because this is worth talking about.
I feel so, yeah. But now, speaking of ominous watery threats, the English.
Yeah, I watch a lot of YouTuber The Spiffing Brit, and he says much the same.
Yeah. I mean, and as a Frenchman, I am duty-bound to riff on the English a little.
I think the English are duty-bound to riff on the English, let's be honest here.
Yeah.
I think that's like at the top of the French Constitution, you must make jokes about the English.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's either that or every man is born and remains equal. One of the two, I'm not sure.
They're equally powerful in French law, I'm sure. But yeah, Civ 6, and I hope you guys like folk songs, because guess who brought up another folk song?
You like folk songs?
You like folk songs?
Oh boy.
Oh god. Eddie, you better be prepared for the nuclear take I have at the end of this. By all means, please continue.
Oh boy. Now I'm the one bringing a fight, apparently.
Mwahaha.
So I've mentioned in, I think, 2 episodes now that Civilization 6 tends to use either famous songs or folk songs from a given civilization.
This one seems
And
to have
then
done both.
Yeah, this is a famous folk song. And then they use those songs. Generally, it's one song per civilization. I think that there might be one or two where they have 2 songs, but generally they get one song, and that song just gets variations depending on which age you're in
Yeah.
the game. So this one for the English is Scarborough Fair, which
Yep.
I will admit it's not necessarily one of my favorite folk songs, mostly because my mom is huge into Simon and Garfunkel, and I am so sick of this song. But I love what they did in Civ 6 for the medieval version, because it is not necessarily a very maritime song, but it feels like something I would hear in a pub being sung by sailors in their off time.
Yeah.
This version seems like something like it doesn't have vocals here, but it feels like the instrumentation that will go with those guys singing drunkenly.
Yeah, and it's late night drunk, not we are still in the process of getting smashed drunk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the slower pace.
My primary...
That,
yeah.
that kind of sent me back to some Heroes of Might and Magic track, which also has a similar pace on the map of kind of being zoomed out and seeing the world tiny under your gaze.
You just hit the nail on the head there. I was listening to this and like, what does this remind me of? That's what it reminds me of. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
That was on the tip of my brain. Thank you. What I get from this song is more the pub/tavern than I do anything actually maritime. It feels very landlubber to me. Like, there's even like a hurdy-gurdy in here. Like, no one's bringing that onto the ship.
I don't know, isn't the hurdy-gurdy pretty parody in itself?
Kind of.
I'm honestly not sure anymore.
I think it got associated with that thanks to later musical culture, like #blame Disney. But, not so much in the actual music history variation. It's, again, very much landbound type of instrumentation. It's just like a standing pub band. This is like minstrels in the pub who kind of just are an act there.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, I don't know.
My
This
mental
one...
image,
Go on.
my mental image is sort of in between. I'd say, if you take just Scarborough Fair, the song, it is very much a song that I associate with just you are in the middle of land. There's no sea to be seen anywhere. But the instrumentation here, with the potential exception of the hurdy-gurdy, is something that I wouldn't, like you, I wouldn't associate this necessarily with being in a ship at high seas.
Yeah.
But I would associate this with like a sort of a pub at the docks or something like that.
Yeah.
Like
A dock-bound pub sounds right to me. Yeah.
Yeah, basically you're not on the ship, you are planning and commendating the ships that are actually going to sail at sea. But you're on dry land.
And the only thing you're deep into is rum. You're deep into a lot of rum.
Freshly imported rum.
Yeah. It basically reminds me of the pub in the first Monkey Island game. I don't think the song that plays there is anywhere similar to Scarborough Fair, but that's the sort of ambient where I would expect to hear this interpretation of Scarborough Fair as a background music. So like it's not at sea, it's not in the water, but it's water adjacent.
Yeah, I can live with water adjacent.
I could vibe with water adjacent. I think that's fairly accurate.
Like, you're not in the seas, you're just ruling them.
Pretty much. And it does kind of build off of what I mentioned earlier. Ren and I actually mentioned earlier about how sea shanties originally showed up as ways to organize work and became folk songs. So here's another folk song. And if you're playing Civ 6, unless you're playing the Pangea map, you will listen to the song a lot around water because civilizations have biases to where they spawn, and the British will like to spawn on islands because of Great Britain.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they get actual bonuses for cities they found that are not on their original continent.
Yep. It's basically them, the Portuguese, and the Spanish are the big maritime-based civilizations. There are others, but those three are kind of the big ones. Even the Vikings are more land-based. They're kind of divided.
Yeah, Vikings are just about pillage wherever it may be.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Or
time for the nuclear
Norway,
take.
If we wanna, Norway, if we wanna be correct about how the game gets.
And after your nuclear take, I will have a joke.
Fair enough. Eddie, you picked a funny one, given our history. Because I listened to this song, and I listened to the composition in particular, and as it rises, I'm like, at some point, the guitar is going to kick in, right? Isaac Delahaye is going to start playing, right? You picked a song that sounds like an intro to an Epica track.
Oh boy.
You did. I'm like, this feels like we're just going to start a Monopoly on Truth. This feels like the intro to their 10-year anniversary concert with the actual orchestra. And I'm like, oh dear. So, good job. Way to go, buddy. You who don't like Epica picked yet another song that sounds not dissimilar to Epica's output. How are you this good at that?
Defend yourself.
Look, I tend to dislike Epica when they try to mix this stuff with metal. When they go soft, I like their sound.
Anyway, take complete.
It is a tale of two commodores that are exchanging insults before exchanging cannonballs at sea. A French and an English one. The Englishman says, "You French people, you only battle for money. We battle for honor." To which the French captain answers, "It makes sense. We all fight for that which we do not have."
Okay, that's a good one.
That's... okay.
I think it was an ancient Greek teacher that taught me that one. And with that, let's take a dive underwater for first immersion from the Subnautica soundtrack, because I basically went through the entire Subnautica soundtrack and seeked for the one that would fit the theme the most, which is not all of the Subnautica soundtrack, believe it or not. A lot of them are way more sci-fi than they are watery. But then there's this one.
Honestly,
which actually startled you.
Yeah,
Galen, I believe.
Honestly, I was just gonna say, let's go from a song that is 100% me to a song that is 100% me.
I literally put in my notes that I assumed this was an Eddie pick.
Yep,
it turns out it wasn't an Eddie pick.
Yeah, the first line in my notes is, "Surprise, not me."
Yep.
Yeah, it is very much an off-the-beat pick for me, because that one is almost more of a soundscape than it is a song in itself.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the soundscape shortly, but let's talk about what we can of the song first.
Well, it's very... We've mentioned a lot of tracks that imply movement. That one is kind of the opposite.
This one's very still.
If there's any movement being implied here, it's the movement downwards with the water pressure. encompassing you.
Yeah, and I think that I kind of had to take a Subnautica soundtrack and to explain why this one felt like one of the most suitable track, because it's just being in a stilled underwater environment and things appear peaceful, but just like how the Subnautica devs started making a peaceful underwater game and people took it as a horror game, and I was like, okay, I guess we're going to roll with that now. There is this notion of something that isn't intended by itself as a threat, something that just lives there, but that's right in the corner of your eye, and you're not fully sure where it came from, or if it's just living its life, or if it's going to take a bite out of you.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I remember watching playthroughs and being mildly freaked out by the reefbacks before I realized they were entirely benign.
Yeah. As much as it is about thalassophobia, the actual term, not just the kaizo, it's also about the fear of the unknown, because kind of you don't just progress by having better tools to go to deeper and more complex parts of the map. You also progress by just knowing what's a dungeon and what's not. By kind of conquering the fear of the unknown through just knowing stuff.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of a game that I've just learned of, I think 2 weeks ago, called Iron Lung. It's an indie game by David Chylinski, I think it's pronounced. That one is straight up meant to be a horror game. It's kind of
also Markiplier's making a movie about it.
Are they?
Yeah, Markiplier bought the rights to it, is making a movie for it. Like, that one actually made the Variety trades. Like, I'm actually like, this isn't Hollywood news. What the hell?
That's either gonna be very interesting or very awful. There's
one
no
or the
in
other.
between.
I think it'll be interesting either way. Will it be good? That's the question.
Yeah. But I think the game Iron Lung doesn't really have much of a soundtrack, if at all. But this song kind of feels the vibe I got from the videos the one video actually that I've watched. There's this sense of menace and suspense.
Yeah.
And there's the distortion, which is, I believe, what Galen has things to say.
Okay,
about.
well, I kept trying to transition into it, but we're like, you want to talk fear? This song made me afraid. You want to talk, like, you want to talk unknown danger? I felt like I was in danger for all the wrong reasons. Here's a composition note for you. If you're going to write a song and or soundscape that isn't outright something like Metal Machine music, do not, I repeat, do bleeping not put in sound effects that make it sound like my equipment is malfunctioning.
Oh.
I have very sensitive audio equipment. Shocker.
Yes, you do.
I listen to these songs on very sensitive audio equipment. I hear the wrong kind of static, my freak-out-o-meter goes straight to the top.
And
okay.
Now our audience knows how to put the fear of God in a sound guy.
Oh, yeah,
but
absolutely. Don't do that to me. That was a heart attack. That's like, is my equipment messing up? Do I need to actually, like, call Charlie, call Rye from the mainland, get him out here and do a full office diagnosis? What's going on? Wait, it's the song.
Yeah.
The song is doing this. This is baked into the song. How dare you?
Yeah, because it kind of establishes first that it's not just that there are ambient noises, it's that they are very spatially present. Like, you don't just hear the sound of water kind of bubbling. You hear it down and to the right, even with normal headphones.
Yeah. It's very spatially oriented. It sounded like this speaker in particular was messing up with that static hit, by the way. My rear right surround. And I'm like, did I blow a capacitor when I wasn't looking? Like, what is going on here? What's going on here is that the writer of this song, the composer of this song, is a monster. That's what's going on here.
Apparently so, yes. Okay.
I am very much amused at how I wrote an intro where you're fake desperate, fake panicking, and then Rana came up with a song where you were actually panicking.
Actual panic happened, yes. Good job.
Yes.
This is the one song on this playlist that isn't an earworm for all the wrong reasons. I never want to hear this again. Sorry, I have to talk about this because this is such a specific situation that resulted in a very real, like, almost issue being developed before I realized what was happening. That was a good minute and a half of terror.
Yeah, now I actually wonder if it's just that he had the sound handy, or if it's kind of an in-joke, because it kind of fits the world without the sound guy notion, because there's the underwater world you are immersed into, but there's also the fact that you come from a giant spaceship and it's full of electronic tech, and you're kind of building your own future base.
Which actually brings me to an additional...
the soundtrack is very electronic.
Yeah, that also brings me to an additional complaint I have about this. Like, there's elements of the soundscape in the song, but the soundscape is going to play the soundscape, so there's very serious risk of doubling up for no reason.
But I think what helps this part is probably that the sounds you hear are very deliberate, so eventually you kind of have to learn what part is part of the music and what part is actual sea creatures going around, and it's part of kind of conquering the unknown.
I think this is a mistake. I agree with your assessment, but not your implementation in this instance. I think that can be handled from the sound effects line without messing with the music.
I think, in fact, that it is something that is changed and more towards a more music-like music in Below Zero, which I think had a different composer.
I haven't seen as much of that one, but that one definitely felt different than what I watched of the regular Subnautica.
I was just gonna ask, kind of wondering aloud, whether this is in the game or if they mixed like this for YouTube.
Yeah, that's a good question. Is this just the release mix and they threw some sound effects in there? That happens from time to time. Or is this the actual is this the in-game version?
I'm not 100% sure, because past the first moments, honestly, in this way, for all the this is the scariest game ever vibes people have, given that I don't have that much of that fear of the death, I'm just vibing.
And like to bring another song we talked about here, the Drunken Sailor from Assassin's Creed 4, there's a reason our playlist has a gameplay video when the album is available on YouTube. It's because on that case, the album mix is literally just the people singing. It's missing the ambience, it's missing the slight reverb from singing in the middle of the ocean. So in my mind, the proper experience for that song is with the sound effects as well. So
absolutely.
I wonder if the case here is that the studio went, well, the proper way to experience this is with the sound effects. So they baked the sound effects into the song, so to speak, when releasing it as an individual piece of art instead of a part of the game.
Possibly, but the sound effects are very much different from what you'd need to actually pay attention in the game.
That's something else that has me mildly concerned. I don't know. I have
Weird
issues with
choice.
this song, both from a technical level and the fact that it caused me to have an actual panic situation go on. So maybe my opinion is colored by the fact that it seemed to at least simulate a very real emergency in my office, and
Yeah.
maybe my negativity stems from that. But the fact that that happened in the first place is deeply frustrating to me.
Understandable.
We were this close from the captain asking for his brown pants.
Sure.
Well, then let's move on from something that is very immersive to a fault to something that has some moisture deficit. That's the name of the track. That's it. That's the transition. I don't have anything better. Go for it.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, let's move on from a song that's very much me to another song that is very much me. Wait, again.
Wait. That's also a song that's kind of me, though.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, moisture deficit from the first Risk of Rain, because Christodoulou can do no wrong in my eyes.
Although he would take umbrage to that statement, as the comment section states.
Yeah, the guy feels like a perfectionist, and that kind of comes through in his music. His music is very, very well made, and a lot of people kind of point out to other songs in Risk of Rain as their go-to, their favorite song. I think just double check the title.
Moisture deficit.
No, not this one.
Oh.
I think the main one that most people see as like the best song of the game or their favorite is Monsoon, which has kind of become a theme of Risk of Rain. But for me, it has always been Moisture Deficit. I just love the guitars here.
Yeah, and that one is kind of a boss theme too.
I wouldn't know because I never played the game.
Well, what happens in the flow of the game is that you go through the level, you find the final teleporter, and you start the end sequence, which is 1 minute 30 seconds of endless enemy waves plus a boss that jump on you. And you have to kind of clean all those up. And that's one of the tracks that fires up when you start the teleporter sequence.
Sounds frantic. Yeah, I think this is a song where he could have easily gone overboard with the guitars, but that would kind of go way too far off from the general sound of the game. It would kind of sound like an anomaly in the middle of the soundtrack. And I think the actual song he came up with in this case is just kind of the perfect balance of like, let's add some guitars, let's make the guitars the focus of the song, but like let's just stay in this sort of a pleasant area. Let's not go full on heavy metal or whatever.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I, surprise, really like this one. The guitars are just really great. It's very chill and deep. I love the drums. I don't know if they're samples or not, but they're really, really good. And there's this guitar, both melody and harmony at the same time going on that's actually like really, it intertwines really well. This is just, again, like usual from this guy, a really well-crafted song.
Yeah. It's incredible, not just that the song itself is this kind of progressive build-up that just works, but that it works so well in the game, given that according to an interview I recently saw about the Risk of Rain remake that's coming up this year for the 10-year anniversary, basically he doesn't get a brief. Like, essentially, instead of writing a game soundtrack in the traditional sense, he just makes an album and tells the dev, you figure out where you put which track.
I'm not sure I
God.
like that sort of style, but it seems to be working for them.
Yeah, like, that sounds like a recipe for something that feels disconnected.
Yeah.
But I guess part of what makes it work is his style that echoes to itself a lot, what with the tudum leitmotif that you definitely hear in this song, that kind of helps give things a coherent whole. That, and of course the fact that it's the same composer, that
As
naturally
someone,
helps.
as someone who works in the creative aspects of a marketing agency, the prospect of not having a briefing is my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And now that I've
Yeah.
learned that, I have way more respect than I already had for this guy.
Also, shout out to 7x4 time signatures.
Yeah, that's also a factor. This guy's kind of going crazy with the music theory. I don't know. I find that experimental stuff like this is really, really, really hard to get right, and the fact that this guy can so consistently do it is truly impressive.
Yeah. Because it's consistent, but he makes a very pointed effort to not just repeat himself.
Uh-huh.
That's why, for instance, it took so long to have an echo to what's one of the most popular tracks from Risk of Rain in the sequel. And he basically waited until they had a final level to put it in. Now I do have one more thing to ask solemnly Eddie.
Go on.
What's the watery part? Because of course the entire album, every track has some water-related part in the name due to it being for Risk of Rain, but I do wonder, especially given that it's a moisture deficit, if for you it evokes water because of its patent absence, or if it's something else. Talk us through the process of you bringing up that track.
Honestly, I could be like one of Pavlov's dogs or something, but for some reason the entire soundtrack to Risk of Rain gives me some rainy vibes in general. The guitar used here specifically, again, here's a memory from my childhood.
Go on.
It kind of sounds like a more, how do I put it? A more constrained, let's say, more restrained. That would be the right word. A more restrained version of what Joe Satriani did in his Crystal Planet album. And I have vivid memories of rainy days listening to Joe Satriani's Crystal Planet, because that's how a friend introduced Joe Satriani to me, by playing that album in a car trip.
Well, now I'm very glad I asked.
Yeah.
I don't remember where we were going, but I vividly remember listening to that album in a car in the middle of rain. And the guitar here reminds me of the timbre of that Joe Satriani picked for that album in general. But it's a much more restrained melody here. It doesn't have Satriani's thing of going overboard, showing his skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see having the rain out and being in some confined environment. I picture more of a room, but the car makes even more sense. And listening, even if it's not specifically to this track, to some stoner rock in the background, and yeah, no, that's
that checks
an
out.
experience as well.
I did not expect this episode to be my childhood memories edition.
Well, water certainly has more memories in music than in medicine.
I got that one. Just kudos.
I feel bad that I didn't.
Homeopathy.
Oh, okay, that makes sense now. All right, cool.
Yes.
I didn't realize that
Excellent.
that's where you were going with the joke. So there we go. All right.
Yeah, no, that's the one.
Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough.
We're basically saying homeopathy is a scam because it is.
It is.
It is. And with that perfect agreement, let's go to something that is equally perfect, the perfect deck soundtrack. And probably the best track in it, in my opinion.
You know what? It's a hard sell for me. Like, that one's really... There's a bunch. This soundtrack is super good, and I kind of feel like it's underrated, weirdly.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about this one in a while, to be honest with you. But much like the Chrono Trigger situation, a random YouTube feed came up. 30K is one of these, like, guitar-focused game music remixers that I follow, and I believe he may also be Brazilian as well. I know he speaks Portuguese, but I feel like he's Brazilian.
Give me a second, I'll check.
Sure.
Nope, Argentina.
Argentinian. Okay, my bad.
Fernando Carabajai.
Oh, I didn't know his real name.
There we go.
Anyway, he did a recent release of a song from Perfect Dark. And I'm like, oh, right, that really cool game on the N64 that I played a bajillion hours of. One of the only shooters I've ever truly loved with all my heart.
Well, that's me and GoldenEye.
Understandably so. I do, in fact, rate Perfect Dark above GoldenEye. I think it's a better game and a better soundtrack, but that I know that kind of puts me in the minority.
It probably is. I don't say one is better than the other. I just say I've played way more of one than the other.
Fair enough.
I couldn't afford an N64, so I have no horse in this race.
Well,
Well, no seahorse, am I right?
Boo. Anyways, there's there's one level that takes place aboard a big old spy ship, a military spy ship that you got to get on board and do things to. So, go do those things. And that would be the Pelagic 2. And, yeah, this song is definitely in the upper tier of the soundtrack, but this soundtrack is so stacked that I'm not sure I could call it number one. There's just so many good songs on it.
Yeah, it's just the one that stuck to me the most because the hook is already something.
Again,
which kind of bookends the earworms we started with.
yeah, yet another earworm. Shocker. This has been an episode full of them.
Yeah, and another thing is that I mentioned there was some more techie or electronic tracks in the Subnautica soundtrack, and that feels like it right in line with those sorts of tracks.
Oh,
Because
interesting.
of the various sounds used in it. Sorry, I thought you were voicing something and I didn't catch it.
No, I
See?
just said interesting.
Oh, no,
Moved on with
okay.
life.
Then that was just the delay that kind of fooled me and shut down my train of thought. Sorry.
Sorry.
Streams. Back in.
Back in.
And yeah, like, we have this sci-fi at sea theme that, now that I say it like that, probably doesn't deserve the conscious credit. It probably doesn't get the conscious credit it deserves, because it's more than just sea stuff and sci-fi stuff. Sci-fi at sea has this unique flavor to it that I think I'm starting to realize I really like.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like that. I like that you guys brought up the fact that it's a spy ship and that it gives a sci-fi feel. Because while listening to it, one of my thoughts was, firstly, this is either Perfect Dark or James Bond. There's no other option.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the studio worked on a James Bond game before they made that.
Perfect Dark was originally supposed to be a follow-up to GoldenEye before it became its own
Yeah.
thing.
Yep. I'm familiar with the story, hence
Mm-hmm.
the fact that it's either one or the other. There's no other franchise this could be from. Um, but the general vibe of the song also reminded me a little bit of Metal Gear Solid 2 because of the whole sea
Yeah.
platform.
Oh, I didn't think of that, but you're
Yeah,
right.
Big Shell.
There it is, sci-fi at sea again. Yeah.
Exactly.
Have we just sort of discovered something? Because I hadn't thought of this before, but now that you're mentioning it, I'm like, wait, that really tracks.
Yeah, no, I definitely made a realization during that sentence, but and it makes sense because it's not like there were many submarine installations before high level of technologies were attained to be able to do that, and do that in a way that doesn't completely isolate you from the sea. So, yeah, no, but there's a reason why that's apparently a thing, and apparently a thing I like.
It's a cool thing. And this song really, if it is a thing, and I think we may need to do a little more research on this, I feel like this song really kind of exemplifies it in a lot of great ways. It's got a great energy to it. But it still feels like, at least to me, it still feels like you're on the water. Now, that could be just my own personal, interpretation of it, given the level it's from.
There's definitely that aspect with the more of the background sound that keeps that abyssal presence going around. With those long, drawn-out, kind of almost piano-like notes. Boom. That help set up the fact that there's a wider presence surrounding you, that it's not just the ship, but the sea it floats in.
I would also like to say that as we're talking about this, I came to a bit of a realization myself, and see if you could follow me or if this is my synesthesia going crazy. The main hook, the main melody line, almost feels like a visual representation of a wave hitting a hull.
I see you, the which is the kind of attack, the push, and then the wave that's receding with the
Yup, and then same there is the follow-up, is the, splashing. I don't know if that's just me going crazy or if that's intentional.
No. If you're crazy, then I'm crazy too. It's not just actual waveform visualization.
Yeah.
There's something more wavy than that.
I didn't think of it that way when I was listening, but I can kind of see it now that you guys mention it.
Yeah.
It has that that vibe that it comes and goes, basically, like waves.
It feels that way, which I think kind of comes back coming back around to that sci-fi at sea thing, and we made a discovery. This is actually a type.
Yeah.
This is a thing. Well, now I want to go back and re-listen to Ocean Palace and see if that actually does qualify.
I think it does, in fact.
I kind of... Wow, yeah, it does fit the aesthetic, doesn't it? What did I do? What have we done? We've done a thing. I feel proud of us. This may be one of my proudest moments with you guys, that we actually discovered a paradigm that I don't think any of us realized existed, but I think all kind of agree does, unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's honestly part of the reason why we're doing that podcast in the first place.
Well, this is turned
And that's not to diminish any of the other track. Like, there is more to water than sci-fi at sea. And that's kind of what water does best, is to change and have multiple meanings in it. Which is why I think we've done so many water-adjacent episodes with the rain one and the beach one and the likes. But taking the theme as broadly as we can, we could see movement and stillness. We could enjoy the olden time conquest of the seas and sci-fi at sea, which is definitely a thing.
It does amuse me how much this episode kind of became an episode of accidents, where it accidentally became an episode about my childhood memories. It accidentally became an episode about Rana traumatizing Galen, and accidentally became an episode about us discovering that sci-fi at sea is a thing.
And it all started with my kitchen accidentally exploding.
Yep.
Well, there are no mistakes, just happy accidents.
Or just accidents, period, because nothing was happy about my kitchen.
Yeah, no,
Took a
true,
lot of
but-
cleaning. That was like 4 hours of cleaning.
Maybe the water was happy at being freed from its pipes.
I hate you. Music Arcade now playing.
Love you too, Galen. Love you too.
Alright, well, let's talk about video games we've played recently, and I've just started it myself. But the one addition is that I finally got around to start Chained Echoes, because I've heard good thing about it, and I was like, hey, is it on Game Pass? It's on Game Pass, might as well start
Might as
it.
well try it, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
And,
lot of guitars in this battle theme.
Yeah, and the other, like the more generic and the normal boss battle themes are mild up to the point where they're a bit too mild for my taste. They don't feel bold enough. And I don't mean intense or hardcore all the time, but just some of the hooks and the instrumentations doesn't... It's a bit too soft in the way it attacks for my taste. This one, though, which is the theme for the battles in which you acquire character classes, think of it like the asterisk battle theme from
Bravely
Default.
Okay.
And yeah, it's definitely more up to my speed.
I like it.
mean,
It sounds... You first?
You guys were saying earlier, talking earlier about my the weirdness of my workout playlist, and I'm not saying this song would fit in that playlist, but I'm just saying.
This one sounds very Dynasty Warriors 8 to me.
Oh, yeah.
Like the way the guitars work, I
didn't think
find
about
myself
that, yeah.
listening to like the Fawn Castle theme solo is what this reminds me of probably the most.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that now you say it.
Which is good. I like that song.
There is this frantic energy in it.
Yeah. Okay, you want to talk frantic
so-
energy. We may as well just rip the Band-Aid off of this one. What in the hell?
Yeah, because when I brought up Chained Echoes, I realized that I couldn't just not bring the Total Race. So, because this this game is in some ways echoing Chrono Trigger, there is a festival at the beginning of the game you attend with one of your characters. And one of the games you can participate in is betting on turtle races, which is strangely a predictable minigame to win, though you don't get any actual benefit from it, but you have this happy little festival music, and then you start the battle, you start the race, which is more intense than a battle, because those little goofy-looking turtles suddenly start bolting on some just 20 seconds of just dumping metal energy until it kind of settles.
Yeah, I reeled in my chair when this hit. I'm like, what in the... Where did this come from? I was not expecting hardcore punk. Of all the things I was expecting, hardcore punk, not it.
Yeah.
I love the juxtaposition of hardcore punk as those turtles go
right
slowly across the screen.
Again. I was slapped in the face by this song.
Yeah, the screen even has those typical anime motion lines, like this is fast, this is intense, and the turtle is just
Exactly.
going slowly. It's amazing.
It's really kind of something. I know this is intentional. Like, obviously, this is the point.
That's clearly a good joke.
But also, like, what in the hell? But also, like, I get the joke. But also, like, what in the hell?
Yeah. Honestly, what I respect as well is how if you're going to make a track that's explicitly a joke like that, I appreciate that it's just 20 seconds of it.
Yeah, they went all in. This is a sort of thing that could easily wear out its welcome. Final Fantasy
Yes.
13-2 comes to mind. They have a metal chocobo theme that goes way too long for its own good.
I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see that.
That
If
sounds
it's any
weird.
reassurance, the other Metal Turtle related song that I've listened to recently from Intergrade is, given that it's in the distance and played in radio's in-world, it doesn't overstay its welcome as well.
There you go.
Shout outs to the fact that you could say with a straight face the sentence, the other metal turtle related song that I listened to.
Recently, no less.
Yes,
I mean,
like-
you want to get really technical, let's just go back to sewer surfing from Turtles in Time. It's not
you
exactly
mentioned
metal, but
that-
it's adjacent to it.
You mentioned that, and I was kind of beating myself here for not bringing a cover of that is kind of hard rock, somewhat heavy metal-ish.
Yeah, I
Apparently,
guess the
turtles
reason
and
I
heavy
didn't
metal go
bring it
together
up
well.
is that-
I don't understand
Yeah.
how this happened, but here we are.
Yeah, and I guess the thing is that it's a very good track, but it didn't feel watery enough, oddly. Like, the energy was more in the transit and the high speed than the sewer themselves, and it could have worked just as well if it was a highway high-speed chase.
Yeah.
They could have been skating instead of surfing.
Exactly. Alright, that's it. Next.
So, last episode I said I was gonna try to play some more Mortal Kombat 11, and I did.
Okay.
Not much else to say about that game. There is a track in the playlist. It's the title theme, and honestly, the title theme is the most interesting track in the game. I don't like the themes that play when you're fighting; they're boring. And
Yeah.
the themes that play when you're in the story mode are very cinematic because you're in the story mode.
I've got to be honest, this song doesn't do anything for me. This one, it doesn't sound like Mortal Kombat to me at all. It just sounds like almost Lord of the Rings-ish. I'm just like, what am I listening to right now? This feels weird.
Honestly,
Yeah,
it-
this cinematic is the world.
Yeah.
it's kind of weird in Mortal Kombat because Mortal Kombat is known for gruesome, constant character deaths, but almost no one dies in the story mode in any
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat game.
Yeah, fatalities are very segregated from the actual, like... I still stand by that the original Mortal Kombat was just an edgy game for edgy teenagers,
Absolutely.
and somehow the franchise stuck, and I don't think it's aged well. Even as it makes gameplay improvements, I look back on it and I'm almost embarrassed by it. Because I'm just like, this is a lot and it makes no sense.
Yeah, I think gameplay wise, it's a fun franchise, though not my favorite. I've learned through playing Mortal Kombat 11 that I prefer the Injustice games, especially Injustice 2.
Fair.
But still, I'd say that the gameplay wise, it's still a decent, fun fighting franchise. Even if I dislike the fact that it has a dedicated block button, but story wise, it's all right. Like it's doing some interesting things, but almost no one plays fighting games for the plot.
Hey.
Like I play fighting games for the single player content. I don't play PvP, but I don't necessarily care about the plot in the fighting game. I care about the fight.
Right.
Now, before I forget, one other thing that I definitely want to mention is that so the next game in the series has been announced, and well, in other circumstances I would have been, I can understand them not killing half their cast because they gotta continue have them around. That isn't the case because the next game is an in-universe reboot of
Yet
the timeline.
another reboot.
So they could definitely have killed most of their cast.
Yeah, the Aftermath expansion actually gets a lot of deaths. Like,
Oh, good.
yeah, Liu Kang dies, Kitana dies, Sindel comes back to life, only to betray the people who brought her to life.
Wait, Liu Kang dies? Isn't he the main character of the next one?
He dies a lot. This is like the third time he's
Timeline
died.
shenanigans. There are 2 timelines in Mortal Kombat 11. In one, he became a god, and then he sent people back in time to fix some stuff. And in that other timeline, people die, and one of the Liu Kang versions dies. And then the god Liu Kang comes back and fixes things, and he creates a new timeline. It's some, to quote, insert famous British sci-fi show here, it's some weird timey-wimey stuff. Wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff.
That sounds about right. Yeah, this is I still remember the first Mortal Kombat movie very fondly, but that's about the only thing I can give it, I think, at this point in my life.
Yeah, this one had it embraced the cheese.
Yeah, they actually had so the actor for Shang Tsung in the movie actually portrayed
they brought him
Shang Tsung in
back.
Mortal Kombat 11.
Hiroyuki Tagawa. I was very pleased to see that happen.
Yeah, and there's a DLC that brings movie costumes with new voiceover for Sonya, Raiden, and Johnny Cage.
Cute.
Not Kano, sadly. Rest in peace, Trevor Goddard.
Rest in peace.
But
now, if I may hijack this
please.
Just a little, I unfortunately haven't been playing Street Fighter 6 that released recently because I can't run it properly.
Oh dear.
But I've given a listen to the soundtrack, and as much as this game seemed to have done more or less everything right, the soundtrack, I don't know, it really feels like they have some tracks with some ideas, some coloring, but that it's like they took a track and removed the main part of it. Like there's something missing, and it's on every single track. Like it's backup for a vocal track that doesn't exist. It's very frustrating to listen to.
Weird.
Yes, it is.
It kind of makes me think of Guilty Gear Strive, which, in my opinion, went overboard on the other end of the spectrum, where every song has vocals, and I just hate the vocals. But
I don't know. I just really love Chip's track.
I just don't like the vocals in Guilty Gear Strive. I'm not sure if it's the accent, which is a very rough accent, or if I just don't like the voice itself, or if maybe it's both. But I don't like the vocals. I preferred when Guilty Gear was instrumental, at least for the in-fight songs. I wouldn't have minded vocals in the main menu, but in-fight it feels awkward.
Well, there's probably a happy medium somewhere, but I will say that's likely not Mortal Kombat 11, because they just went in a full of a direction and seem pretty happy with the movie theme.
Yeah, pretty much. In fact, Mortal Kombat 1, the new reboot, will have Johnny Cage. I think it's pre-ordered exclusive, but probably they'll release a DLC as DLC later.
I'm sure they will. They're not going to take a character out of rotation just for pre-order.
No, the character will be there, but there's a skin for Johnny Cage that turns him into Jean-Claude Van Damme, which is a reference to how he was supposed to be Jean-Claude Van Damme in the first Mortal Kombat.
This sounds dumb.
Great. I love me some JCVD.
Yeah, I think at this point that's Warner Games just flexing their muscles with their
Warner,
movie.
go away.
Yeah, with their movie context. But anyway, the other game I've been playing is not a game
Speaking of companies that are terrible.
Yeah, it's this is not a game I expected to be talking about today, but here I am, Diablo 4. I hate that I gave money to Bobby Kotick and the Blizzard executives.
You actually bought it?
I did. I broke my boycott.
I hate to say it, but I'm actually kind of disappointed in you right now.
So am I.
Staying strong here.
So am I.
Okay. Glad we're clear
Yeah.
on that point. Please continue.
Are you at least having fun, though?
Yes, the game is pretty good. I don't fully agree with the 10 out of 10 reviews it's been getting, but I would say I would score it fairly high. It is, as a few reviewers put it, it's a game that is very polished. It iterates on a lot of ideas really well in the full version. I have complained about the beta in a previous episode, and I stand by that complaint. The beta was awful. But the full version, it iterates on a lot of ideas from other ARPGs in very neat ways, very polished ways.
So it seems like they used the beta to do exactly what betas are supposed to be used for, which is figure out what's wrong and fix it. So good on them, I guess.
Incredible.
Yeah, pretty much.
You mean it's not just a demo?
Yeah. But yeah, while it has that level of polish that not many ARPGs have, it on the flip side, it's not really moving the ARPG market forward. Like there's no innovation here. There's a lot of iteration into making some fun systems that make the project feel unique, but there's no single thing in the project that is in and of itself unique and innovative.
Yeah, like the way you say it feels like it's a game that thankfully takes into account the fact that the Path of Exiles and Last Epochs of this world exist, but doesn't really make something that will inspire the ripoff of the next 5 years.
Pretty much. But it's
And musically, how is it?
I enjoy it. So when we last talked about it, it was just the beta, which was just Act 1. The game has 6 acts, but technically it's 5 open world areas and a little bit set in hell in the final act. And each area has its own identity, both visually and on the sound front. So to give a quick overlook, there's the Fractured Peaks, which is basically sort of pre-industrial revolution England, but full of snow, which is kind of your generic gothic setting. And the music there is full of strings. The song that's on the playlist is from the capital city in that area called Kjolvashad. It is very Eastern European inspired in the culture, but visually looks like a mixture of Eastern Europe and England. I like the strings. It's the entire game as the soundtrack is much more ambience focused, as I mentioned before. It still remains true for the full project, but I like the strings. It's very pleasant, very neat. Second area is called Scotland. If you can tell, it is literally Scotland, but fantastical.
Yes, I will have my Undead Vikings. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's interesting visually, I'd say. It's like, again, it's literally Scotland. Like there's highlands, there's the occasional bogs here and there. It is Scotland. Sound wise, it's not very interesting. I cannot remember.
Do they at least have bagpipes?
Sadly, no. That would have been an
Worst
interesting
game ever, 0 out of 10. Glad I'm not playing that garbage.
Honestly, with how things are mixed way into the back, because it's focused on ambience, if they had used bagpipes with restraint, it would have been an interesting and creative choice. But they don't. Like, I don't remember a single melody line from the songs from Cosglen. It is boring. Then we have the dry steppes, which are inspired by the steppes of Mongolia. And it has a lot of acoustic guitars. Again, very pleasant. There's one city that mixes acoustic guitars and flutes that kind of reminds me a little bit of westerns, because the environment sometimes kind of looks like those sandy, rocky areas where a lot of spaghetti westerns were filmed at.
Uh-huh.
So it's neat. I like the guitars in general. It's very very pleasant. Again, there's Kyrgyzstan, which is pretty much just the Middle East,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
Persia, if you want to be more precise, but doesn't use that much Persian instrumentation. Um, it's nice. Uh, it's more of a rehash of what that area sounded like in previous games. Because Diablo 2 and 3 also had desert areas, and the soundscape here is a bit of a rehash, particularly of Diablo 2, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds nice, just nothing new. And then there's Hawazar, which is a huge swamp that is kind of implied to be partially in another plane of existence. And there's a lot of sort of special, unexplained magic. There's the Tree of Whispers, which is it seems to be something ancient that neither the angels nor demons have anything to do with it, despite an angel and a demon being the creators of this world. So that area has a lot of different folky. Crap, another bike. It has kind of an assortment of different folky vibes mixed into a single style, which makes it have a bit of an otherworldly vibe. I particularly like when it gets more ominous. It uses a lot of chanting when it gets ominous, and that's a cool vibe. If you're into the band Dead Can Dance, this is kind of Dead Can Dance like.
Uh-huh.
And I am a
Okay.
huge fan of Dead Can Dance, so I enjoy this.
That cadence is pretty good.
But yeah, it particularly reminds me of the more out there Dead Can Dance songs. Like it doesn't have the santur, it doesn't have those typical medieval instruments from Persia that they like to use, but it has that way they play with vocals sometimes, which I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And Help is just let's play orchestral music that sounds ominous, which another bike,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically exactly what Hell sounds like in every game not named Doom. So no surprises there. One
Yeah.
one surprise in the soundtrack that I wanna bring up is the cinematics. They have there's a lot of composers in this game, but the cinematics are all done by one specific person that doesn't show up for any other track. He only does the score for the cinematics, and that's Ryan Amon. If the name sounds familiar, he comes from Bloodborne. So they knew who they were hiring. The soundtracks, the cinematics, they sound fittingly ominous and demonic. So
Good, good.
he did his job.
Yeah.
And tangential, but not entirely something that I'm now playing, but something that I've discovered this past week. I want to give a shout out to ICC of the YouTube channel Uncanny X.
Okay.
He recently released a video. The title is Street Fighter Sample Discovered, part of his oddly familiar series of videos where he basically lists songs that sound strangely familiar and tries to find inspiration behind those songs.
Uh-huh.
Early into the podcast, one of our early episodes, I talked about Elecman, how Elecman goes with everything, appears everywhere. That's his channel is where it comes from. He has a sub series of Elecman, sounds like Elecman. But in this new video, he found the rapping sample for a lot of retro games. He lists them in the video. The one he particularly associates with is Street Fighter 3. And he found the sample. He discovered who the producer was, and he discovered who the rapper was, and he had a conversation with the rapper. So shout outs to proper credit, the rapper in question being AK Swift. I really recommend watching the video. I love this sort of stuff where they just go into a journey and discover the full credits to a piece of music that a lot of games have been using. So kudos to proper credits. Now we know who is rapping on those songs.
So I'm in a bit of a slump, as has been the case the last several episodes. I'm really only playing FF14, Hitman, Yakuza, and Arknights, and that's kind of my whole life right now.
It's already a good assortment of games.
Sure it is. It just doesn't provide me very much to put on this one. Thankfully, Arknights recently had an event, Il Syracusano. Our 3.5 anniversary, I think? Anyway, we got a wild boss track. I thought the War Shanty was, like, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy. It's swing rock. Just straight up swing rock. It's a boss theme. It's straight up swing rock. I don't know how to take it. It's an earworm. Hey, guess what? More earworms.
Might as well.
Might as well. It's cool. I like this one. It's wacky. And that's it. That's my list. I have nothing further to add. Cry.
It is a neat song. Kind of reminds me of the days when Buck Tick were a good band. Nowadays they're boring.
I don't know who that is, but that sounds very interesting to me.
They're a J-rock band. They kind of innovated into the visual K aesthetic. They were kind of the first ones to do it. They mostly do alt rock. They have a gothic rock album. Nowadays they kind of do some pop rock-ish stuff. I find their recent output very boring. But they had some cool actual rock albums in the past.
Okay. Fair enough.
On that note, I think that's the end of the episode.
I dare say I would agree. We are out of time for this episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, checking us out. As always, you can find the songs we have discussed in the playlist below. Additionally, you can find out how to contact us either via Discord or email. Please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. And until then, stay dry, everybody.
See ya. It won't be difficult for me to stay dry.
Land ho!
Who you calling a land?